Welcome, College Basketball Tip-Off Tuesday edition. It's Tuesday, March 19th, and we are inching ever so close to the official start of the NCAA tournament. We have the first of four play-in games tonight at 6:40 Eastern and 9:10 Eastern in Dayton, Ohio. I am Steve Merrill, joined by Rob Vino here on WagerTalk TV, and we are breaking down both games tonight, Rob. I'm also going to get your insight and bracket tips, and I can't steal any of your bracket tips, my man, because my bracket is officially done as of a couple hours ago. It's locked and loaded. It'll be up on Wager Talk this afternoon for all my clients. So I have finished my bracket. I know you're probably pretty close to finishing yours as well. But first, let's look at these play-in games tonight on Tuesday night. And first one does go at 6:40 Eastern. And as is always the case, it's the two 16 seeds. We've got Wagner and Howard, and Howard made a nice little run. You know, the MEAC tournament was in Norfolk, Virginia this past week. They knocked off the number one seed in the host, Norfolk State, in the semis, and then they won the finals as well to get here. So they are a true 16 play-in team, but they're in pretty good current form. As you see, the odds makers have them favored tonight as well. Rob, what's your insight in this game at 6:40 Eastern Tuesday night?
Yeah, it's interesting, Steve, the path that Howard had to take to get here, right? I mean, you do a little deep research into them. We see them very infrequently as far as televised games are concerned, or even with the Plus ESPN Plus app. You don't see them as frequently as others, as we're busy on 150 game slate Saturdays. But couple of times I looked, and then you watch the conference tournaments for that reason to see what teams are all about. What you find out about Howard is that injuries have just destroyed their season. And the fact that they're even here is, I don't want to call it a miracle, but somewhat of a miracle, right? This team now has used 13 different starting lineups. They've had starters miss 82 combined games this year. They just won their tournament, the MEAC, without two guys, Shy Odom and Dom Campbell, who are integral parts of their seven-man rotation. They're both questionable tonight. One with a back injury, one with a concussion, still has not been cleared. You start looking at what they had to go through, winning Thursday, Friday, Saturday, fly home from Norfolk to the university, have Sunday off, fly to Dayton on Monday, and now play here. So it's an exhausted team that had four starters go 36 to 40 minutes in every single game, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A couple articles I read, they talked about the sheer exhaustion of being able to win that thing and then get back to the NCAA tournament, right? They were here last year, not as a play-in team, but they played Kansas and got destroyed. Hardly anybody left from that particular team, Steve. Only one starter and two other players. So, excuse me, two starters and one other player. So they're not. It's not like they brought a veteran-laden team with NCAA tournament experience back. This is a lot of portal guys. This is a lot of second team guys, deep bench reserve guys that were forced into minutes because of the lengthy injury list this year. We'll see. I mean, Howard's here, happy to be here. Wagner's sort of the opposite as far as rest is concerned. I think, again, this is always that 2020 hindsight question, rest or rust. Wagner won their tournament last Tuesday. Are the 6 days since where they haven't played a game, are they helpful? Are they harmful? You don't really know the answer to that until the end of the game here. Um, they won the Northeast Conference tournament by beating the top three seeds in that tourney. The three teams they beat were a combined 36 and 12 in league play this year. So kudos to Wagner for pulling off a real good 3 game run to win the Northeast. They should have the energy advantage here, but what that's worth, we don't really know. If you look at fundamental matchups here, you find out a lot of stuff. Wagner can't shoot the basketball. Number 353 in the nation out of 362 teams. Their effective field goal percentage, free throw shooting, 3-point shooting, 2-point shooting, all combined, 44.6%. That's horrendous for any team. That's horrendous. And like I said, it's the 10th worst in the country. They're number 249 shooting free throws. They're 291 shooting threes. They're 353 shooting twos. Howard defends just a shade below what's national average. So they probably get the perfect elixir defensively here by facing this Wagner offense, which doesn't shoot very well. However, Howard basically is a team that lives off 3-point shots and Wagner defends it excellently. As bad as they shoot the ball, they defend pretty well. 3-point defense is the 10th best in the country, only allowing 29.8% from three. Howard does turn the ball over a bunch. Maybe Wagner can force some turnovers here. If this thing is close late, Steve, and a 3.5 point line would indicate that it's going to be close late, then huge edge to Howard and their free throw shooting. If Campbell or Odom don't play tonight, which they didn't, as I mentioned in the tourney over this past weekend, if neither of them play tonight, then four of the five guys who will start for Howard tonight shoot free throws 81% or better. How often do we see that? Hardly ever. So huge free throw advantage late for Howard if it gets to that. I would say this. Certainly, if you take a final look at this, the depth advantage goes to Wagner, especially if Campbell or Odom can't play. Probably matters more for foul trouble than anything else, because with these 4-minute timeouts in all of these games, you can get your rest in these commercial timeouts. You're going to Dayton. You're playing on rims and in an arena that you haven't played in all season long. So I don't know. With Wagner, you can't shoot anyway. So now you go to a gym you don't play in. Do you shoot better? Probably not. And Howard might have some fatigued legs here. Again, foreign rims for them. I think the pace of Wagner, which is so slow. We're going to talk about Virginia in a minute, and everybody knows how slow Virginia plays. Wagner, equally as slow. Take 20 seconds off the clock every possession. You add all those factors in, and I really can't see it getting over the total of 128 and a half. It made it all the way to 130 earlier today, but was immediately bet back down. So I think, Steve, you're probably looking at an under here. I don't know which way to pick between sides, because there's so many contradicting things that you could throw at, either argument.
Yeah, it's interesting about the total. I mean, we can check the WagerTalk live odds screen. It'll show 125.5 was the opener, but there's a tab you can click up there, everybody. It says openers, and it shows the openers for every book. And you'll see it varied anywhere from 125 to as high as 127, some of the later books. So it has gone up a bit, though, because the current consensus line is now 128, as Rob said. Point spread has not moved at all. It opened 3. It's been -3 from the start across the board. Howard was favored in 2 of those 3 games in that MEAC tournament, including a 6-point favorite against Delaware State in the final, and they won by 3. It landed on 137, which is exactly the closing total of a lot of books. So it was actually a pretty sharp line. Meanwhile, Wagner, as Rob said, had to win 3 straight underdog games a week earlier to win their tournament. And to put it in perspective, there's 362 teams. We're going to talk about it, Virginia, in a moment. They're 362nd slowest. They're the slowest team in college basketball. As Rob said, Wagner right now, tempo 361. So they're the second slowest team in the country, and they are not a good offensive team. 38% shooting on the road this year, 29% from 3, and an unfamiliar arena here tonight. So I would agree with the under. The one concern, as Rob pointed out, is that Howard does shoot free throws well, 75% of the season, and some of their top guys are over 80%. And I do think that's why we've seen some money come up on the over in this game. But I'd probably lean under in this one. Not a game I'll be involved in. 2 really bad teams. I'll be pulling for Howard, just sentimentally, somewhat of a local team here in Washington, D.C. area. All right, speaking of local teams, Virginia Cavaliers, not my Virginia Cavaliers, taking on Colorado State, and they are the official slowest team in college basketball. I think there's ever been a time in history, back-to-back games on national TV, same arena, have the 2 slowest teams in the country. In fact, I know it's never happened, but it will happen tonight, and it will make for some bad TV. But Colorado State, Rob, also plays slower tempo than average, so maybe they'll be comfortable with it. The Virginia Cavaliers have been a really bad offensive team. There's so many similarities for Wagner, right? The 2 slowest teams, better defensively than offensively. Obviously, Virginia's at a higher level, but, they were the number 3 seed in the ACC tournament. I talked to a lot of local people last week. They're like, oh, they're in. They don't need to win. They're not going to take only 2 teams from the ACNC. And then Lenardi had said before that game against Boston College on Thursday, it was a win in their end scenario. Well, they won that game barely. And then they actually should have beaten the whole tournament and lost that game because, once again, they found a way to miss free throws. And then with all that said, they were barely in. I mean, there's no question they were not in had they not won that first game probably. So Virginia in the play-in round, maybe a little bit of a surprise to some. But then again, if you look at the Ken Palms, they're way down that list as a 10 seed. It's probably where they should be. Rob Vino, what's your take on this Colorado State Virginia game at 9 o'clock Eastern tonight?
I think real quick, Steve, we're not going to go deep into statistics here because I think just the most people have the eye test on both of these, and I think you can gauge this matchup without really heading into a deep dive of statistics. But you brought up that Virginia NC State game. I mean, they're that close, right? What's interesting about Virginia is the way Coach Bennett has recruited over his entire tenure is exactly the same. The one difference is this team missing that free throw against NC State is nothing new for the Virginia Cavaliers this year. I mean, I'm trying to think back, and maybe you'll know better, but there was a game I
Wake
want to say about a
Forest, because
month
I
or
was on
5
them.
weeks ago. They missed the
Wake
first 10 free
Forest.
throws, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you the
Was it the
story,
first
Rob.
10?
So, how could I interest you if you have a home team -3 and they hold their opponent to 47 points? How much would you have bet on that team pre-flop? Well, UVA wins by 2, 49-47 as a 3-point favorite, and they were 1 for 11. 1 for 11 from the free throw line in that game. It was about a month ago on a Saturday. And then South Carolina was my second play. They blew a 16-point lead against LSU, and I was like, oh boy, I know how this day is going to turn down. I think we ended up going 3-0 in the next 3 games to have a winning day still, but could have been a 4-1, 5-0 day. So I vividly remember that day, and it was Wake Forest. Yeah, exactly right, Rob. They hold them to 47 points, and they still don't cover. And that's what you're dealing with, Virginia. By the way, on the season, Rob, 63.5% from the line. They had a guy in that game, I think it was a 90% shooter, and he still missed, but everyone else pretty rough this year.
Yeah, and sorry, but the intent was not to drudge up bad memories for you, but
That's
it
it.
was to get to the point that
I see the Cavaliers, they
usually,
come out automatically.
generally speaking, on an annual basis, we can count on UVA free throw shooting. If there's 2 things or 3 things they do well, they generally shoot well from beyond the arc. We know about their defense, we know about their pace, and they'll make their free throws. This year, that is not the case. So late game, you have to worry about this team, just like the case with NC State the other night. Now it took a miracle 2-pointer from NC State. That's how close NC State was to not even being in this tournament, right? That shot doesn't go. They're not in. They're sitting home, and Virginia's in. So that's what those conference tournaments bring. Here in this particular game, Colorado State money has come in, and I'm sure that the majority of it is not pro Colorado State. It's anti Virginia. Enough people are sick of Virginia this year to want to just watch them get destroyed tonight and say good riddance. Um, I'm not so quick to do so because you're always afraid of that 49-47 game, right? 49-47. If you have UVA tonight, you cover. If you're on the losing end straight up, you still cover. Colorado State has the best player on the floor, without question. Isaiah Stevens is the best player on the floor. And I think we're going to learn a little bit tonight about the Mountain West Conference. I've been a proponent all season long of how good I pound the table for the Mountain West, and the fact that they got so many in, I'm glad. Watched a lot of Mountain West basketball this year. I think they're really, really good teams. But we're going to find out. You're going to come up against, do they know how to attack a pack line defense? You don't see it really in the Mountain West, although you see a lot of good defense. You don't see that particular style of defense. San Diego State's a good defensive team. Nevada's an extremely good defensive team. UNLV turned into a good defensive team. So on. Boise, so forth, right on down the line. I think Colorado State has the goods to win this contest. Total 120, 120 and a half. And it just looks like you're supposed to play it over, but you're dealing with Virginia once again. Um, I would say this, Steve. I think that Colorado State, from watching them this season, has enough one-on-one, can go get your bucket style of players, especially Stevens, to maybe find trips to the foul line, to maybe find ways to the rim, little quickness advantage over Virginia. I don't find Virginia to be overly quick this year at all. Not that they ever play that style, but we've seen guys that have made the NBA off of this team. I don't know what we have that's of that caliber this year. A little bit leery to lay 2.5. I think if the proverbial gun to head was the situation, I would take Colorado State. Both again different style gym, but both neither is worried about venue. So if I have to take the team that shoots better in all aspects, it's going to be Colorado State. And the one missing thing, I guess, that I didn't mention because we talked about Virginia defense is Colorado State defense. Nico Medved's team is very, very good on the defensive end, and they don't mind getting into a grind. They'll get into a low scoring grind with Virginia. It doesn't matter to them. So I think in the end, they're probably the better team. If they don't turn out to be, I really don't like to make blanket statements about a conference, but I think if you can't beat Virginia and you're Colorado State, it may say a little bit about the Mountain West. I'm not sure every game is individual and situational, but we'll see. I think Colorado State probably, and you need 60 aside to get this thing over the total. I'm indecisive there. I can't make a real good call on that one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Colorado State or pass minus the 2.5. They are the better team. And like you said, Rob, they have the best player on the court as well. They're by far, not even close, the better offensive team. In fact, they're one of the better offensive teams in the country. They're shooting 49% from the field this year, 46.5% on the road. Virginia, 40.5% on the road. And if you look at the efficiency rankings, Virginia's like in the 190 range. There are only 5 tournament teams out of 68 that are weaker than them offensively. And there's 3 16 seeds, a 14, and a 15. Those are the only teams worse than Virginia offensively this year. That's how bad they are. With that said, what kept me off this game as the best bet tonight is the fact that I do respect Tony Bennett. I respect that slow down half court style. And in a one and done scenario, it can be very frustrating for teams that aren't familiar with it. With that said, though, Virginia is now trying to avoid a third straight year in a row in the tournament of being a one and done. So it hasn't been working. And don't forget, they lost to a 16 seed a few years back. Yes, they went on to win the national title. It's the only good tournament they've had in like the last 6 years. And in that one, they had like 3 fortunate wins that literally were coin toss games, a couple overtimes, a lot of one possession. So it's always do or die with Virginia. It is always tempting to take the points with them, and that's what kept me off this game. But Colorado State's the better team, and they do hit 75.5% from the free throw line. That also could be the difference if they pull away late in this one. So I would lean Colorado State minus the 2.5. Yeah, this Virginia offense, it just ain't right this year, and I've seen it firsthand a few times. All right, that's Rob Vino. I'm Steve Merrill. And Rob, here on the way out, I want to get from you, give us a bracket tip if you want, but I was thinking maybe more so, give us a double-digit seed. We'll call them a sleeper, right? And I'll say it has to be a double-digit seed. So maybe a sleeper or two if you got more than one. While you're thinking about that, I'll let the viewers know my complete NCAA tournament bracket, including all of my sleepers and 7 first-round upsets, is available right now for all my clients. You can also purchase it solo if you want just my bracket. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. And don't forget the NIT starts tonight. I do have a strong NIT best bet and a bonus free play in the NIT, a free NIT play for Tuesday, along with that full bracket right now. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. And that is Rob Vino. Rob, you can also get his best bets at WagerTalk. Let us know what you got, Rob. And also give me a sleeper, a double-digit seed that can maybe, let's say, make the Sweet 16. I think that's probably a good start.
We can do that. First off, let me just say that the top play this evening comes from NBA Action, 4% best bet. 4% best bets on a pretty nice 6-1 run. They've been few and far between this year. That 6-1 run actually extends back to late December. That's how few and far between the 4% best bets have been. But we have one tonight that we like very, very strong. It's up and available right now at wagertalk.com. You can also get tonight's college hoop card. Don't forget that aside from the NCAA tournament, you got a lot of big NIT games tonight. The CIT tournament starts. We're going to post tomorrow, one game for tomorrow today. So you can get a whole bunch. You got to come back often during this time of year, right, Steve? I mean, these games fly by and, don't miss out. Just keep checking the website. We, as handicappers, all on different time zones and post at different times. So once again, you can find all my selections throughout the tourney. Probably best just to purchase a package and have them sent right to you as soon as the plays are released. So once again, it's wagertalk.com, big NBA 4% best bet tonight. Steve, to pick one of these double digit seeds that are going to make it through to the Sweet 16, I had a couple that I really like, but one has an easier path in my estimation than the other. So I'm going to leave you with Bryce Drew's Grand Canyon team. Grand Canyon is going to get St. Mary's right off the bat, if in fact they can get past St. Mary's, which I think in watching Grand Canyon, I think they can handle again, another slow. Why don't we put St. Mary's on TV tonight? And we can watch the three slowest teams in the nation go up and down the floor. But I think Grand Canyon has all the components to pull this off. No better coach than to pull off an NCAA upset win than Bryce Drew, who did it for Valparaiso as a player. But I think they can beat St. Mary's. And if they get past that, it's the winner of Alabama and College of Charleston, which I think is, it's an easier matchup than the first one. Alabama certainly, um, with the injury situation right now to Griffin, and with the fact that they can't play a stitch of defense whatsoever, and College of Charleston to me has been slightly overrated all season long. So I do like New Mexico out of that region, but New Mexico, unfortunately, as the 11th seed, has a more difficult second round game than would Grand Canyon. So I think Grand Canyon's probably a better shot. I'll leave you one more thing here. You can find so many prop bets in this NCAA tournament before it starts, but I found one where Marquette was listed as minus $1.35 to make the Sweet 16. Tyler Kolek is going to be back in the lineup, practicing with the team again. And Marquette would have to go through Western Kentucky and then the winner of Florida versus the winner of Boise State, Colorado, which would be played tomorrow night. Marquette should win both of those games with Kolek back in the lineup. So minus 135, I thought was extremely cheap. If you guys can find it, I think I found that one. I've got so many printout sheets from different outlets here. This one looks like it came from DraftKings. Okay, so DraftKings had a minus 135. If in fact you want to go ahead and play that Marquette to make it to the Sweet 16.
I'll just give some general bracket tips as well. A couple ideas. First of all, most of them don't have to be turned in until Thursday. And one thing we see every year, Rob, is the one of the play-in teams makes a run. Now it's usually been 11 seed in the years past. We got 10 seeds playing tonight. But you want to take a look at maybe the winner either tonight between Virginia, Colorado State, or tomorrow night, Wednesday, between Boise State and Colorado. You can really catch up on people because a lot of people turn their brackets in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They don't even know the results, so they just blindly pick the team that kind of got the bye into the round of 64. I like Colorado State tonight over UVA, as I mentioned earlier. It does make you a little nervous laying 2.5 against UVA, but I think Colorado State wins that game. And then they're going to get an interesting matchup against Florida. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Colorado, Boise winner gets Florida, but Colorado State would get Texas on Thursday and then possibly Tennessee. And Barnes has underachieved at times, So could Colorado State be that sleeper team? Rob Vino talked about how balanced they are with a star player. Maybe Colorado State could be that sleeper. And if they are, it's not a surprise. We see these play-in teams, VCU, Shaka, speaking of Marquette, Shaka Smart's VCU, Rams did it with the first year of the play-in team. They were 11 seed, went all the way to the Final Four about a decade ago. So we see it happen quite often. Something else I'll point out as well. We talk about these upsets, and we're talking about double-digit seeds. And you notice I said Sweet 16 because the run normally ends after that. Everybody remembers the round of 8 where they make it occasionally. But if you look at who wins the NCAA tournament, UConn won as a 4 seed last year. And that was unusual because 19 of the previous 20 years, it had been a 3 seed or better. 19 of the previous 20 tournaments, which means now 19 of the, 19 of the last 21 has been a 4 seed or better. So we've only had one team outside the top 4 seeds win it over the last 2 decades. And by the way, that was also UConn in 2014 as a 7 seed. That was a crazy year as well. In fact, UConn did it as a 4 seed last year, a 7 seed at 10 years ago. Otherwise, 19 of the other 20s have been top 3 seeds. 14 of the 21 have been number 1 seeds alone. So everyone loves to pick those first, second round upsets. But if you really want to win your bracket and win money, you probably want to have a 1 or 2 seed there getting it done. Historically, that's how it's worked. Although we've seen a little bit more upsets along the way here in recent years. All right, I'm Steve Merrill. That's Rob Vino. That's the Tuesday edition. The play-in round starts tonight. We will be back tomorrow on Wednesday after 2 o'clock Eastern with another live CBB show here with a look at the other play-in games for tomorrow, Montana State Grambling and Boise State, Colorado. In the meantime, comment below here. Who are your long shots? Put it down in the comments. If you're right, you can show all your friends a couple weeks from now. And if you're wrong, just pretend like it never happened. It's a no-lose situation. Put your top double-digit seeds. Got to be a double-digit seed, and they got to make the Sweet 16. That's the criteria. Comment below your long shot specials. And also thumbs up, like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for instant alerts. And stay tuned right here to Wager Talk TV for some more great college and pro basketball content coming up next.